The Texas Panhandle don't take kindly to weakness, and men like Cash and Wade, they don't beg unless they're desperate. He had nothing but a dying horse, dust in his throat, and a promise burning in his gut. He came to Hartstead not for gold, but to offer the one thing no man ever dared. "Let me work for you," he said to the widow, "and I'll give you strong children." This ain't just another cowboy tale. It's about survival, scars, and a deal that could break them both. Past the blowing grit, the storm parted just enough to reveal it. Hartstead, a strange oasis, fenced, fortified, wide fields grown wild, a mansion built by oil money and grief, standing like a monument to what was lost. Cashin reached the gates, slapping the dust from his coat. The iron creaked open. A boy with mismatched boots pointed him toward the porch with wide, curious eyes. The door opened before he could knock. Evangeline Hart stood there, tall, proud, wrapped in black silk and widow silence. Her hair pinned, eyes cold, back straight as fence post steel. "You're late," she said flatly. "No one gave me a time," Cashin answered, voice low. Gravel dragged through molasses. Her eyes scanned him from boots to brow, settling on the scar that ran from the corner of his jaw to the base of his ear. "What do you want?" she asked. He removed his hat, stepped forward once. "Let me work for you. I don't hire drifters." "I don't drift," he said. "And what makes you think I need another man around?" He met her eyes now. Something unspoken flickered there. "I'll give you strong children, too." The words dropped like gunshots. Evangeline didn't flinch, didn't smile either. But something in her jawline tightened, faint, like an old wound remembering how to ache. "I give you a week," she said finally. "You touch liquor or lie once, I bury you in the barn." Cashin gave a slow nod. Fair trade. The porch groaned behind him as she turned and walked inside, long skirts brushing worn wood. The door shut, echoing across the yard like a verdict. Next morning, the sun came up over dying fields. Cashin rose before it, rolled up his sleeves, and went to work. The soil was stubborn, clumped and cracked, choked by years of neglect. Weeds stood tall like grave markers. Fence posts leaned like old men too tired to stand straight. He worked in silence. Sweat slicked his back by mid-morning. Blisters bloomed by noon. Townsfolk passed by on the trail and slowed their horses to gawk. "Another fool trying to tame the ice widow," one muttered. Cashin didn't look up. By sundown, his shirt clung to him like wet skin. He sat by the field's edge, drinking from a dented flask, not liquor, just water warm from his saddlebag. His eyes, empty as the sunset, a flicker of memory sparked. His boy's laughter, his wife's hands brushing flour from her apron, then coughing, fever, pine box shadows. Cashin stared at the ground, voice barely a breath. "I ain't failing again." That night, the wind changed. Clouds rolled thick and black across the sky. Lightning carved the heavens. Thunder dropped like boulders. Then came the rain. Violent. Hungry. Cashin jolted awake to the screams of panicked livestock. He ran barefoot through the mud toward the barn. Doors bucked on their hinges. Inside, animals slammed into stalls. A bull broke free, eyes wide with terror. Cashin didn't hesitate. He threw himself at the beast, wrapping his arms around its neck, trying to steer it away from the walls. Hooves caught his ribs. He grunted but held firm, mud and rain blinding him. From a mansion window, Evangeline watched. Her candle cast a halo behind her, but her face was still. Lightning lit the scene in white flashes. The man wrestling death with bare hands and bleeding knuckles. By morning, silence. Cashin stumbled from the barn. Shirt torn, arm limp at his side, mud up to his knees. He didn't look at the house as he walked to the field, just picked up a rusted hoe with his good hand and started again. Evangeline came to him at mid-morning. She stood beside him for a moment without a word, then held out a canteen. He took it slowly, eyes meeting hers for the first time without challenge. She didn't speak, just nodded once, then turned away. He watched her go, lips parting just slightly. Not a smile, but something close. Asterisk, sometimes trust ain't built with words. Just pain shared under the same sky. Asterisk, the trees stood close in the canyon pass, their twisted limbs creaking like tired bones under the wind. Cashin stepped through them with axe in hand, looking for a good cedar to bring down. The woods had a weight to them, old, watching. He felt it in the back of his neck. Birds stopped singing. A growl split the silence. Cashin turned, too late. A flash of yellow eyes and sinew-black fur lunged from the underbrush. A panther. Big. Hungry. He threw up his arm as it struck, claws raking flesh. He hit the dirt hard, axe flung wide. The beast pinned him, teeth flashing toward his throat. Then came the whistle of something fast. An arrow. It struck behind the panther's ear. Another thump tomahawked a rib. The cat collapsed beside him, twitching once, then still. Cashin gasped for breath, rolling free. Standing in the shadows was a man, tall, copper-skinned, eyes dark as canyon water. A single braid hung from under his wide-brimmed hat. Across his cheek ran a thick white scar, like he'd once stared down lightning and lived. The man didn't speak. He retrieved his tomahawk, wiped on the grass, and gave Cashin a single nod. Then he turned and melted into the trees. Cashin lay there a moment longer, panting in the silence left behind. The blood on his arm stung, but not near as much as the mystery walking away from him. Back on the ranch, days turned to weeks. Cashin worked sunrise to moonrise. He replaced half the broken fence line, carved irrigation channels by hand, and coaxed life from fallow earth. The ranch began to hum again, quietly, like something waking from grief. Not everyone liked it. Royce, Evangeline's cousin and tenant of the North Pasture, watched from his porch, spitting tobacco and laughing behind his whiskey cup. "You can fix the land, Wade," he sneered one day, "but the lady? She ain't fixable." Cashin didn't respond, just dug the post hole deeper. Later, Royce salted the garden beds. Cashin found them in the morning, dead and white. He said nothing, just replanted silently. Evangeline noticed. Her glances, once cold as a river crossing, lingered now. When he walked by shirtless in the heat, her eyes flicked up and down, not just curious. Studying, wondering. Royce noticed that too, and hated it. One night, under a blue moon, Cashin lit a small fire by the old bunkhouse. A long day behind him. Bandaged arms still stiff from the panther's claws. He heard a soft rustle. Red Hawk stepped from a brush like a shadow pulling itself into shape. Cashin nodded once. "You again?" The Comanche didn't answer, just pulled a pouch from his belt and tossed it. Tobacco. Cashin took it, rolled a smoke, offered one back. They sat in silence, firelight dancing on their faces. Next morning, Red Hawk was still there. Without a word, he led Cashin into the hills. They tracked deer, low, slow, quiet. Red Hawk showed him how to read grass bent by wind, how to spot the print of a snake dragging through dust, how to breathe like the earth, not above it. Cashin spoke in fragments as they moved. Used to have a boy, barefoot, always singing to the chickens. Fever took him in 3 nights flat. Red Hawk said nothing. Wife went next. After that, war didn't seem so bad. Still no words. But Red Hawk's gaze held him. Solid. Not pity. Not judgment. Just being there. That night, when Cashin returned to the ranch, he didn't feel quite so hollow. Spring crept in on golden wind. The town held its annual gathering. Half dance, half auction. All rumor. Evangeline arrived late. Dressed in black as always, her mourning veil lifted but still present in her expression. She stood at the edge of the crowd, alone, untouched. Cashin, clean for once, wearing a jacket that still fit from his wedding years ago, crossed the floor to her. "Ma'am," he said, bowing slightly, offering his hand. She looked at it for a long time, then turned her face away. But when the fiddler struck a slower tune and the other women cleared space for her, she stepped forward. She danced with him. Not close, not like lovers, but not far either. Her fingers touched his palm near the end, brushing, holding just for a second too long. In the corner, Royce watched, face sour, hat low over hateful eyes. The next morning, Cashin walked behind the barn looking for a broken plow blade. That's when he saw it. A gravestone, small, hidden behind the tall grass, nearly forgotten. Thomas Hart, age 7. He stared at it for a long time. When he looked up, Evangeline was there. She didn't speak for a long while. Her hands were clenched. "He drowned in the pond," she said finally. "I sent him to fetch water, and I didn't find him until hours later." Cashin remained still. "My husband took to drink after that. Didn't take long for that to take him, too." She folded her arms, but not to shield herself, more like to hold something broken inside. "I ain't got no more pieces to give, Cowboy." Cashin stepped closer, slow as dusk. "Then let me give you mine." The wind shifted. Cashin smelled the smoke before he saw the flames. By the time he reached the edge of the pasture, the dry brush crackled and danced in bright orange tongues. Fire crawled to the wheat like a living thing, hungry and wild. A gunshot rang out. Two men stepped from the dark, faces hidden, clothes rough and stained with intent. One carried a torch, the other a sawed-off shotgun. Cashin ran straight for them. Fist met jaw with the first. The torch hit the dirt, but not before kissing the edge of a hay bale. It exploded into fire. The second man swung the shotgun like a club. Cashin ducked, caught on his forearm, twisted it free. They grappled in the dirt, flames flickering around them. Cashin bled from a split above his brow, his side pulsing with pain. Another shot, closer now. The man with the shotgun lunged again and froze. An arrow thudded into the post beside his head. From the shadows, Red Hawk emerged. Calm, deadly. A tomahawk glinted in his left hand. Another arrow in his right. The attackers fled, crashing to the burning brush, disappearing into the black. Cashin collapsed to his knees, coughing smoke. Red Hawk knelt beside him. He didn't speak. He never did. He helped Cashin his feet and nodded once before vanishing into the dark again, as if summoned by fire and dismissed by peace. Hoofbeats thundered in from the west. Evangeline rode fast and furious, her black horse wild-eyed under her. She pulled hard at the reins, swung down with a revolver in hand, and aimed square at the figure emerging behind the burning hay bales. It was Royce. "Don't," he said, holding up his hands. "Wasn't me." She fired. The shot cracked into the ground inches from his boots. "If I see you again," she said, low and burning, "I won't miss." Royce backed away, muttering curses, vanishing into the smoky dark. She dropped to her knees beside Cashin. His shirt was soaked in blood and sweat. His hand trembled as he tried to rise. She pulled him into her arms, dirt and ash smearing her dress. "Damn you," she whispered, holding his head to her chest. "I told you not to mean nothing to me." He tried to speak, but she shushed him, brushing the hair from his brow with fingers far too gentle for the fire behind her. He passed out with her heartbeat in his ear. The next morning came slow. Cashin woke in the bunkhouse. A rough linen sheet covered him. The bandage on his side smelled of whiskey and sage. Pain flared, but he was alive. The chair beside the bed was empty. On the windowsill, in the pale morning light, sat a small carved eagle. Red Hawk's work. Cashin ran his fingers along its wings. Not a goodbye. Not quite. Just the quiet nod of a man who said everything with silence. Later that day, Evangeline stood in the barn doorway. She didn't wear mourning anymore. Just canvas and cotton, and the dust of the day. "You can stay," she said, arms folded. "Not as a worker. Not as a guest." She stepped forward, voice quieter now. "Not husband. Not yet. Just stay." He looked at her long. No words needed. He stayed. Spring gave way to soft sun and warmer ground. New seeds filled the fields. Rows and rows, neat and ready. Evangeline now worked the tiller with her own hands. No gloves. Dirt on her palms, sweat on her brow. Sometimes she cursed. Sometimes she hummed. But every day she was there beside him. Cashin watched her one afternoon, laughing at a stubborn goat trying to headbutt a wheelbarrow. It was the first time he'd heard that sound. He stood still a long while after, like it had caught him off guard, like laughter was a thing forgotten. By summer, the barn held more than hay and tools. It held old books now, one she'd once read to a boy named Thomas. She found him there one evening, squinting at a yellowed page. "You're reading sideways," she said. He grinned. "Reckon the story's more exciting that way." She sat beside him, took the book, and began again, slower, teaching him with a finger under the words. Later, he helped her onto a horse for the first time in years. She gripped the reins with nervous hands. "Don't let me fall." "I wouldn't dare," he said. They rode through the golden dusk. Two shadows side by side, stretching over the field like they'd been there forever. That night in the barn, she stood close. Her fingers brushed his. "Maybe," she whispered, barely above the hush of crickets, "maybe there's room for strong children yet." He didn't answer, just pulled her close, forehead resting against hers, both of them breathing like the earth finally exhaled. Asterisk, some folks ride into our lives with broken saddles and busted dreams. But sometimes, just sometimes, they carry enough heart to plant something new in scorched earth. If this tale stirred something in you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Frontier Legends. Leave a comment below. What would you sacrifice for a second chance at love? Until next time, ride steady and trust slow. Asterisk,